at the end of that round, Tim Rice, having gained an extra point for speaking as the whistle went, is now equal in the lead with Derek Nimmo. They're followed by Stanley Unwin and then Peter Jones. And Stanley, your turn to begin. The subject, which I think you know quite a bit about actually, engines. Will you tell us something about those in this game starting now?
A quick mention of three engines here. Two of them, one is the petrol, and the other is the diesel. There they go half a load down, with exploding at the top of the piston, down, and half a load to eliminate it. Right? The third one is the rotating jet, which Frank Whittle, which he invented just after the war, displacing through, it exploded the Town Barriers Road, and he put one on the back of a lorry. This is near Lutterworth, where his factory. Snuffy poo through the window. I got one. Now then, this lorry trickly hove forward, and all the engine that was in the forward weighed it right daedal. Oh, folly. So now we come to the diesel, you see, because this has got a high pressure.
Peter Jones is challenged.
Well, he's mentioned the diesel at least twice.
Peter, I agree with your challenge. 24 seconds for you to tell us something about engines starting now.
Well, years ago, Stanley advised me to change my oil fairly frequently. And I thought at first he was being personal. But he was talking about a new car that I'd got. It must be 7 years ago. And I did that and have done it regularly ever since. And it's gone beautifully. Still got it. And the engine ticks over like a clock.
Derek Nimmo challenged.
None of his little R's.
None of his little yes. 5 seconds for you, Derek, on engines starting now.
As a boy, I used to collect train numbers. I used to go to Crewe Junction and see the Flying Scotsman come through.
Well, Derek got an extra point speaking as the whistle went, and now he's taken the lead ahead of Tim Rice, and he begins the next round. The subject, Derek, is sauce. Will you tell us something about that in just a minute, starting now?
I'd always wanted to find the source of the Nile, and I decided to start my...
So there he definitely is. So Tim got in, and that was your challenge, I presume, Tim?
That was my challenge.
Right, so you have sauce, and 55 seconds starting now.
I first heard this word sauce when I was extremely young, and it had...
It's not easy. You try playing it at home. Even when you think you know what you're going to say, you can trip up so easily. And Derek was the first to press his buzzer. He's back in with sauce, 50 seconds, starting now.
I landed at port side.
Tim Rice, the challenge.
I thought there was a definite stumble over the second word.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
48 seconds, still with you, Derek, on sauce, starting now.
What is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Then we travelled overland to Alexandria, and I took a boat up the Nile as far as Cairo. Here, I went to Cairo on Neil Street to get a little place on a steamer.
Peter Jones is challenged.
Well, he not only hesitated, but he's talking not about sauce, but about sauce. It's your pronunciation, which I think probably put him on the wrong foot. But anyway...
Well, I've never actually heard anybody... the spelling is different, but I think they're both pronounced sauce.
Sauce. And
Peter,
sauce.
I'm sorry to have to tell you, I don't know anybody who says sauce like that. But I do agree with your challenge.
Oh, thanks.
Because he did hesitate.
Yes.
And you have 33 seconds to tell us something about sauce or sauce now.
There's A1 and OK and béarnaise sauce, particularly rich. I rather like that. You have to have shallots and lots of butter. And other things like cream can be made into sauce very easily if you warm it up and put a few drops of some essence in it, like soya.
You err a lot, as you think, Peter.
Yes, I know. It's awful, isn't it?
Yes, well, of course, you haven't played the game since the last series, so this is you getting back into your stride. And Derek got in quicker than anybody else, so he's got the subject back with 14 seconds to go, starting now.
I spent a very happy night last evening with the Roux brothers, those who run the Gavroche restaurant.
Tim Rice challenged.
Deviation, you can't spend an evening all night, or a night just an evening. I mean, he said, I spent a very happy night last evening. Well, it's impossible.
Absolutely right, Tim, yes. Your command
well, you can spend
of
an evening that seems like all night.
But when you use words in the way that Tim Rice
all
does,
night when you say night.
No, quite.
I agree with
it is night time now, but it's not 3 a.m.
No, and we are not with the Roux brothers.
But Tim Rice had a correct challenge. So he has the subject of sauce with 7 seconds to go, starting now.
My childhood was dominated by that red bottle of a make who I will not advertise on this program, and you could never get the sauce out of the said object.
Well, Tim Rice got some more points in that round, including that one for speaking when the whistle went. He's now 1 point behind our leader, who's still Derek Nimmo, followed now by Peter Jones and then Stanley Unwin in that order. Tim, it's your turn to begin. The subject, discs. I'm sure you know a bit about that with all the music that all the songs you composed. Will you tell us something about discs in just a minute, starting now?
Being a man built on gorilla-like lines, I have great trouble with my back, and the reason I have difficulty with this part of my body is that there are lots of discs in my spine, which means it is extremely hard at times for me to keep 100% fit, and if one of these little jobs goes a bit wacky, I have to go through absolute hell. It is no picnic, I tell you, being 6'4", or anyway, nearly 193 on the metric scale, because all those little discs in my back play me up, day in, day out. And I really wish...
And Derek Nimmo got in first.
Twice a day.
Yes, phrases that come naturally to mind can be
Day in,
repetitious
night
in just a minute. Day in and day out. 27 seconds are left with you.
There was a bit of self-pity in there as well, wasn't there, don't you think? I thought there was.
Yes.
Yes. I nearly threw a few pennies over, you know.
I think he needs them. 27 seconds for you, Derek, on discs, starting now.
I once cut a disc of a song called Toast and Honey and Crumpet for Tea, and it stayed in the shop so long that the hole in the centre healed. It was quite the nastiest disc that you'd ever heard. I have made other gramophone records, and they've all been absolutely beastly. The first disc I ever heard, which I thought was really any good at all, was Tim Rice.
Well, Derek Nimmo got more points in that round and increased his lead, and Peter Jones begins the next round. Peter, the subject, aphorisms. Will you tell us something about those in this game, starting now?
They should really be single sentences and witty and pithy. I thought of one the other day. Alternative comedy is what people turn to if they want to stop laughing.
And Tim Rice challenged.
Well, there was a rather long silence.
Yes, it's, if they want to stop laughing, and he actually stopped
Yes,
talking.
he achieved.
Yes.
He proved
But
the
I
point.
think he was expecting an alternative laugh, wasn't he?
Yes, I thought
He
it'd
was
be a bigger
definitely
laugh, but
expecting
there you
that.
are.
Tim needs to rest his back after that long surge he had in the
Yes,
last round.
dreadful.
I think we'll leave it with you, Peter, with another point and 48 seconds on aphorisms, starting now.
I have a friend in New York who actually publishes books of aphorisms. One I remember is...
Stanley Unwin challenge.
Is.
No.
Well, as I didn't give it to him when Tim challenged him, I don't think I could do it again
No,
when you did.
is.
It was very close, but he's, it would be unfair if I gave it against Tim. and not against you.
Is. The Mets have the participle in the past tense of it, and he's got this slip dates in the third fraud, which is the last one we spoke about.
I quite agree with you, Stanley. It was so beautifully expressed as well.
Yeah, I was thinking of vertebrae, and as I thought of vertebrae with a disc called slippery Huffalo Dowder,
Yes.
suddenly I realised it was an awful mistake to refer to the arm or the heart.
Yes.
Folly, deep folly.
I'm sorry, I do apologise, Stanley, yes. Could you
Granty.
Peter, would you like to continue with aphorisms, and 42 seconds starting now?
Well, he has one which goes, revenge is sweet, but not nourishing.
And in the middle of the aphorism you were buzzed, which I thought was
Who
rather
buzzed
mean.
me?
Tim Rice buzzed you.
No sense of theatre, has he, Ron?
No.
Coming up to your big
Absolutely.
tagline.
Someone's making a
Absolutely.
joke.
I
and he
wouldn't have
buzzes,
buzzed you in
yes.
the middle of a joke.
There was no indication whatsoever there was going to be a laugh coming up. In fact, exactly
No.
the opposite.
I
Well,
just
there's
rather
never any
did-
indication until you've spoken when the laugh is coming, but you always live dangerously in comedy. Right, we've cleared that one up. What was your challenge, Tim?
I have to say, I can't remember.
No.
Itchy
Oh, yes,
finger
it was,
Rice.
no,
it was just-
deviation, grammatical. He said, one's go. He confused his...
He was
I really
trying
wish I hadn't
to
brought
keep
this up.
going under pressure
Yes.
with someone with you
I was
breathing
wrong, I
down
admit
his
it.
neck with an itchy finger on the buzzer and trying to pick him up and everything. 37 seconds, still with you, Peter, on aphorism, starting now.
Well, I don't think there's very much